The morning sun rose over the golden wheat fields of Varith 7, casting long shadows across the peaceful agricultural colony that 12,000 humans called home. Daniel Carter stood on the balcony of the administration building and watched children running through the streets below, their laughter echoing between the simple houses and storage buildings that made up the colony center. He had served 15 years in the military before retiring to this quiet world, and every day he thanked whatever force had brought him here. "Beautiful morning," Lisa Grant said as she stepped onto the balcony beside him, her security uniform crisp despite the early hour. "It always is," Daniel replied with a small smile. Lisa was the head of colony security, though her job mostly involved settling disputes between farmers and making sure the perimeter sensors stayed operational. Neither of them expected that this beautiful morning would be their last peaceful one for a very long time. 300 light years away, General Varith Kren stood on the bridge of his flagship and stared at a holographic map of human space. The Jogari commander was tall even by his species standards, his scaled skin a deep crimson that marked him as a warrior of noble blood. His fleet of 15 warships waited behind him, their crews eager for the glory that conquest would bring. "The humans have grown soft," his advisor reported, pulling up intelligence files on a nearby screen. "They have not fought a major war in decades, and their colony at Varith 7 has minimal defenses." Varith Kren clicked his claws together in satisfaction. The Drakari Dominion needed new territory, and the weak humans seemed like perfect targets. Their leaders talk of peace and cooperation, the advisor continued with obvious contempt. "They believe that diplomacy can solve all problems." "Foolish creatures," Varith Kren agreed. "They do not understand that the galaxy belongs to the strong." He gave the order, and his fleet jumped to faster than light travel, heading straight for the unsuspecting human colony back on Varith 7. Amy Torres was preparing breakfast for her 2 children when the emergency alert sounded. Across the colony, the medical officer nearly dropped a pan she was holding as the alarm blared through every speaker in the settlement. "Mama, what is that noise?" her daughter asked with wide eyes. "Stay here," Amy said firmly, trying to keep her voice calm. "I need to find out what is happening." She stepped outside and saw colonists pouring into the streets, all of them looking up at the sky with expressions of confusion and growing fear. Daniel Carter's voice came over the public address system moments later. "All colonists, please remain calm and proceed to your designated emergency stations," he announced. "We have detected unidentified vessels entering our system in the security center." Lisa Grant was staring at her sensor displays with a cold knot forming in her stomach. 15 warships, each one larger than anything in the human patrol fleet, had just dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. "Get them Commander Cole on the Sentinel," she ordered her. Communications officer at the USS Sentinel was a mid-sized patrol vessel that had been assigned to protect this sector of space. It was the only human military ship within 3 days of Varith 7, and its captain, Nathan Cole, was already bringing his ship to high alert when Lisa's call came through. "I see them," Cole said grimly as his face appeared on the screen. "Drakari Dominion, a full battle fleet. What do they want?" Lisa asked. "Nothing good," Cole replied. The answer came minutes later when General Varith Kren broadcast his demands on all frequencies. "Humans of Varith 7, his translated voice boomed across the colony. "You have 6 hours to evacuate this world and surrender it to the Drakari Dominion, and failure to comply will result in the complete destruction of your settlement." Daniel Carter listened to the message with his fists clenched at his sides. He looked out the window at the families rushing to gather their children, at the elderly colonists who had spent years building this community, at everything they had created together. "We cannot evacuate 12,000 people in 6 hours, Lisa said quietly beside him. "Even if we wanted to, We do not have enough ships. Daniel nodded slowly, his military training taking over despite the fear coursing through his veins. Then we do not evacuate. He said. He opened a channel to the Drakari fleet and spoke with a steady voice. General Varth Kren. This colony is protected by Galactic Council treaties, Daniel declared. We will not abandon our home and we will not surrender to threats. On his flagship, Varth Kren laughed at the humans' defiance. You have one patrol ship and a collection of farmers. He responded with amusement. Do you truly believe you can stop us? We believe we have the right to defend ourselves, Daniel replied. Varth Kren ended the transmission with a dismissive wave of his clawed hand. Prepare the fleet for assault, he ordered his officers. These humans will learn what happens to those who defy the Dominion. Commander Cole brought the Sentinel forward, positioning his single ship between the massive Drakari fleet and the vulnerable colony below. His crew watched their screens with grim determination as they counted the enemy vessels. Sir, we are outgunned by a factor of at least 30 to 1. His tactical officer, Eric Walsh, reported. I can count. Lieutenant, Cole replied calmly. He opened a channel to his crew and spoke words that would be remembered for generations. All hands. This is the captain speaking. He began. There are 12,000 civilians on that colony, including children, and there is no one else coming to help them in time. So we are going to stand here, and we are going to protect them for as long as we can. He paused and looked around at his crew, seeing fear but also resolve in their eyes. Today we remember why we joined the fleet, he continued. Not for glory or adventure, but to protect those who cannot protect themselves. And I am proud to serve with each and every one of you. Down on the surface, Lizagrand was handing weapons to every adult who could hold one, while Amy Torres led the colony's children toward the deep mining tunnels that would serve as their shelter. The clock was ticking, and somewhere above them, a single human ship prepared to face an armada. The battle for Vareth 7 was about to begin. The 6 hours passed slowly for everyone on Vareth 7, with each minute feeling like an eternity, as colonists rushed to prepare for the coming storm. Amy Torres had gathered all 63 children of the colony into the deepest mining tunnel, where emergency supplies and medical equipment had been stockpiled for exactly this kind of disaster. Are the bad aliens going to hurt us? A small boy asked her with tears in his eyes. Amy knelt down and took his hands in hers, forcing a reassuring smile onto her face. We have brave people protecting us, she told him gently. Commander Cole and his crew are up there right now, making sure nothing bad happens to any of you. She wished she believed her own words above the planet. Commander Nathan Cole watched the countdown timer on his display reach 0. The Drakari fleet began to move forward in perfect formation, their massive warships dwarfing the Sentinel like wolves surrounding a single guard dog. Communications. Open a channel to the Drakari flagship. Cole ordered. Kelly Adams, the young communications officer, nodded and established the connection. General Varth Kren. Cole spoke clearly. I am invoking the Defender's Oath under human military tradition, and I am officially declaring the protection of all civilians on Vareth 7 as my sacred duty. On the Drakari flagship, Varth Kren tilted his head in confusion at the strange human ritual. What nonsense is this? He asked his advisors. It appears to be some kind of ancient human custom. One advisor explained after checking the translation database. Their warriors apparently swear oaths to protect the weak, and they consider breaking such oaths to be the greatest dishonor. Varth Kren burst into harsh laughter that echoed across his bridge. How primitive, he declared with contempt. They handicap themselves with sentiment and emotion, and this is why they will always be inferior to the Drakari. He ordered his communications officer to respond to the human captain. Your oaths mean nothing to us. Human, Varth Kren announced. Stand aside or be destroyed with the colonists you claim to protect. Cole did not move his ship. Then you will have to go through us, he replied simply. Sub-Commander Relax, who served as Vareth Kren's second in command, pulled up historical files on humans while the fleet advanced. General, perhaps we should review what we know about human military capabilities, he suggested cautiously. I have no interest in their pathetic history. Vareth Kren dismissed the suggestion with a wave of his clawed hand. But sir, the records indicate that humans have engaged in almost constant warfare throughout their existence. Relax pressed on. They have fought millions of battles against each other over their relatively short history as a species. Vareth Kren considered this for a moment before shrugging. This only proves my point, he concluded. A species that wastes so much energy fighting itself cannot possibly stand against a unified empire like the Dominion, and their internal conflicts have made them weak. Relax wanted to argue further, but he knew better than to challenge. His general twice, the Drakari fleet, closed the distance to weapons range, and Vareth Kren gave the order to fire. The first volley of plasma bolts streaked through space toward the lone human vessel. Evasive maneuvers, Cole shouted as the Sentinel banked hard to starboard. The ship shuddered as two bolts grazed the shields. But most of the enemy fire passed through empty space where the Sentinel had been moments before. Return fire. All batteries. Cole commanded. The Sentinel's weapons blazed to life, sending precise bursts of energy at the nearest. The Drakari ship chief engineer Chris Bennett had spent the last 6 hours rerouting power from every non-essential system into weapons and shields. I have given you everything she has, Captain, Bennett reported from engineering. The old girl is running at 120% capacity, but I cannot promise how long she will hold together. Just keep her flying, Cole replied as another barrage rocked the ship. The Sentinel dove into the asteroid belt that surrounded Vareth 7. Using the massive rocks as cover against the pursuing fleet, Vareth Kren growled in frustration as the small human ship disappeared among the tumbling stones. Follow them, he ordered. A single vessel cannot hide from us forever. But the asteroids proved to be the perfect battleground for the outmatched human ship. Cole knew these space rocks intimately, having mapped every one during his patrols, and he used that knowledge to set ambush after ambush. The Sentinel would appear from behind an asteroid, fire a devastating volley at a Drakari ship, and then vanish again before the enemy could respond. 20 minutes into the battle, the first Drakari cruiser exploded in a brilliant fireball as the Sentinel scored a direct hit on its reactor core. The bridge crew cheered, but Cole silenced them quickly. Stay focused, he warned. We have 14 more to go on his flagship. Vareth Kren stared at his display in disbelief. One human ship had just destroyed one of his cruisers. How is this possible? He demanded. The human captain is using the asteroid field effectively, Relax reported. Our ships are too large to pursue with the same agility. Then we bypass the field entirely, Vareth Kren decided. Send landing forces to the surface, and we will deal with the colonists directly while our remaining ships corner this pest. Down on Vareth 7. Lisa Grant received the sensor alert that showed Drakari dropships entering the atmosphere. She stood at the colony's main gate with 200 armed civilians behind her. These were farmers and teachers and shopkeepers, not soldiers. But every single one of them had volunteered to stay and fight. Here they come, Lisa announced as the first dropship touched down outside the colony perimeter. Kyle Porter, a wheat farmer who had never fired a weapon in anger before today, gripped his rifle tightly and thought about his family hiding in the tunnels below. Whatever happens, he said to the man beside him, we do not let them reach the children. The Drakari soldiers emerged from their ships, expecting easy victory over untrained colonists. They did not expect the wall of gunfire that greeted them. They did not expect farmers charging at them with improvised Explosives they did not expect humans to fight like. Cornered animals protecting their young and high above. The Sentinel scored its second kill against impossible odds. General Varth Kren felt something he had never experienced in his decades of conquest. For the first time in his life, he felt a tiny seed of doubt. The ground battle for Vera 7 had been raging for 3 hours, and the Drakari soldiers were learning a painful lesson about human determination. Kyle Porter crouched behind an overturned farming vehicle, his rifle hot from continuous firing. Beside him lay 2 other farmers who had already given their lives defending this position. Fall back to this secondary line. Lisa Grant's voice crackled over the communication device. Kyle grabbed a wounded colonist and dragged him toward the inner perimeter, while other defenders provided covering fire. The Drakari had expected the humans to surrender after the first exchange of weapons fire. Instead, the colonists fought for every street, every building, every meter of ground when their rifles ran out of ammunition. They used farming tools when their farming tools broke. They used their bare hands. Sub-Commander Relax watched the battle footage from orbit with growing unease. General, our ground forces report unusual resistance, he informed Varth Kren. The human casualties are severe, but they refuse to retreat or surrender. Then they are fools, Varth Kren replied. But his voice carried less certainty than before. There is something else. Relax continued, pulling up a specific recording. Watch this. The footage showed a human female standing in front of a doorway as Drakari soldiers approached. She was obviously wounded and held only a small handgun. But she did not move behind her, Relax explained. Were 3 children hiding in the building? She killed 2 of our soldiers before they brought her down, Relax said quietly. And when she fell, another human immediately took her place in the doorway. Varth Kren watched the recording with narrowed eyes. They are protecting their young, he observed. Yes, General, Relax confirmed. Every human we encounter seems willing to die rather than let us reach the children. Then we simply need to kill more of them, Varth Kren decided. Though his voice wavered slightly up in the asteroid field. The USS Sentinel was dying. Commander Cole's ship had taken dozens of hits, and fires burned in multiple compartments throughout the vessel. The shields had failed 20 minutes ago, and now each enemy strike tore directly into the hull. Captain, we have lost main power to the port weapons array, Eric Walsh reported from his damaged console. Switch to auxiliary, Cole ordered. Auxiliary is already gone. Sir. Chris Bennett's voice came from engineering with a grim update. She cannot take much more. Captain, the chief engineer said. I am holding her together with nothing but hope and emergency patches. Cole looked at his bridge crew, at the brave men and women who had followed him into this impossible fight. They all knew they were not going to survive this battle, but they also knew that every minute they stayed alive was another minute the colonists had to hold out. Helm, bring us around for another attack run, Cole commanded. Sir, I am picking up a transmission from the Drakari flagship, Kelly Adams reported suddenly. She put it on the speakers, and Varth Kren's voice filled the damaged bridge. Human vessel. You have fought with unexpected tenacity, the general admitted. Surrender now, and I will spare your remaining crew. Cole considered the offer for exactly 2 seconds. My crew stays at their posts, he replied. We took an oath to protect those colonists, and we will honor it until our last breath. He cut the transmission and turned to his tactical officer, Eric. Do we have enough power for one more full barrage? Barely, sir. Then we make it count, down on the surface. Amy Torres had transformed the mining tunnel into a makeshift hospital. Wounded defenders were being carried in constantly, and she worked without rest to save as many as she could. The children huddled in a deeper chamber, their frightened faces illuminated by emergency lighting. A young girl tugged at Amy's sleeve. Dr. Torres, are we going to be okay? Amy paused her work and knelt beside the girl. "I need you to be brave," she said softly. "Can you do that for me?" The girl nodded with tears streaming down her cheeks. "The grown-ups are doing everything they can to keep you safe," Amy continued, "and help is coming. But we need to be brave until it arrives." She hoped Admiral Megan Shaw and her battle group would arrive in time. 3 days away had seemed impossibly far when the attack began far across the sector. Admiral Shaw was pushing her fleet beyond every safety limit. "Admiral, the engines on 3 ships are showing critical stress levels," her operations officer warned. "Keep going," Shaw ordered without hesitation. "Ma'am, we could lose those ships if we do not slow down." Shaw turned to face her officer with fierce determination burning in her eyes. "There are children on that colony," she said. "I will burn out every engine in this fleet before I let them be harmed. So keep going." The fleet continued its desperate race toward Vera 7, back at the colony. Lisa Grant received word that the Drakari had discovered the location of the mining tunnels, all available defenders to the tunnel entrance. She broadcast over the emergency channel. "This is our last line." Kyle Porter joined the group of 30 colonists who gathered at the tunnel entrance. They were all exhausted and many were wounded. But not one of them considered retreating. "This is where they put the children," Kyle said to no one in particular. "They are not getting past us." The Drakari soldiers approached in overwhelming numbers. Voreth Kren had ordered a full assault on the tunnel. Determined to end this resistance once and for all, "General, I must advise caution," Relax suggested one more time. "Human reinforcements could arrive at any moment. They are still over 2 days away." Voreth Kren dismissed the concern. "We will be finished here long before then." But Relax had intercepted new intelligence that the general had not yet seen. The human fleet was traveling at speeds that should have been impossible. Pushing their ships to the breaking point, Admiral Shaw was coming much faster than anyone anticipated. And when humans came to protect their children, Relax was beginning to understand. They did not follow the rules of what should be possible. The final phase of the battle was about to begin. Commander Nathan Cole looked at his tactical display and saw only death awaiting his ship. The Sentinel was surrounded by 9 remaining Drakari warships, all of them closing in for the final kill. His vessel was crippled beyond repair, with most weapons offline and engines barely functioning. "Captain, they are demanding our surrender again," Kelly Adams reported quietly. Cole did not respond to the demand. Instead, he studied the position of the enemy flagship, where General Voreth Kren commanded the assault. "Chris, how much power can you give me to the engines?" Cole asked his chief engineer. "Maybe 1 good burst, sir," Bennett replied. "After that, we are dead in space. 1 burst is all I need." Cole opened a channel to his entire crew and spoke his final words to them. "All hands. This is the captain," he began. "We have done everything we could do, and I am proud of each and every one of you. But our mission is not yet complete." He paused, letting his crew understand what he was about to propose. "The colonists are still fighting down there," Cole continued. "Every minute we keep this fleet occupied is another minute they have to survive. So I am going to ram the enemy flagship." The bridge fell silent. "Any crew member who wishes to evacuate may do so now," Cole offered. "There is no shame in wanting to live." Not a single person moved from their station. Eric Walsh spoke for all of them when he said, "We stay with you, sir." Cole felt tears forming in his eyes, but he blinked them away. "Helm, set collision course for the Drakari command ship," he ordered. "Maximum speed on my mark." He opened one final broadcast on all frequencies so that both the enemy and the colonists below could hear him. "General Voreth Kren, you have made a terrible mistake today," Cole announced. "You came here thinking humans were weak. But you have learned nothing from this battle if you still believe that." The Drakari fleet began firing at the Sentinel as it suddenly lurched forward. We are not weak. Cole continued as his ship shuddered under the assault. We are protectors, and when you threaten our people, when you threaten our children, you awaken something in us that you cannot begin to understand. The Sentinel accelerated through the enemy fire, its hull tearing apart, but its engines still burning. You have touched our children, Cole declared as the flagship filled his view screen. There is no corner of this galaxy where you will be safe. On the Drakari command ship, Vareth Kren watched the human vessel coming directly at him. Evasive maneuvers. He screamed, but the Sentinel was too close and moving too fast. Human ships slammed into a Drakari cruiser that had moved to intercept, and both vessels exploded in a brilliant flash of light and debris. Commander Nathan Cole and his crew were gone down on the surface. The colonists defending the tunnel entrance saw the explosion light. Up the sky above them, Lisa Grant whispered a silent thank you to the brave captain who had bought them. Precious time. But there was no time to mourn. Drakari soldiers were charging toward the tunnel entrance in massive numbers. Kyle Porter fired his weapon until it clicked empty, then picked up a metal beam and swung it at the nearest enemy beside him. An elderly woman named Martha fought with a kitchen knife she had brought from her home. These were not soldiers. These were ordinary people defending their families, and they refused to fall. General Vareth Kren watched the ground battle footage with growing horror. His soldiers outnumbered the human defenders 10-1. Yet the advance toward the tunnels had stalled completely. Why will they not break? He demanded of Relax. The sub-commander pulled up more files. Translations of human literature and history that he had been studying since the battle began. General, I believe I understand now, Relax said carefully. Humans have a concept they call the defender's instinct, and it appears to be fundamental to their species. He showed Vareth Kren footage of a human parent shielding their child with their own body during the fighting. When humans perceive a threat to their young or their vulnerable members, something changes in them, Relax explained. They become capable of extraordinary feats, and they lose all fear of death. Impossible. Vareth Kren rejected the explanation. No species can simply ignore survival instinct. They are not ignoring it, General, Relax countered. They have redirected it, and their survival instinct is focused not on themselves, but on their children. Vareth Kren slammed his clawed fist against his command console. This was supposed to be an easy conquest. He roared, General, there is something else you need to see. Relax said with fear creeping into his voice. He displayed new sensor readings showing the approach of a large Fleet Admiral Megan Shaw's battle group was arriving much sooner than expected. Their ship showing signs of severe engine stress from the impossible speed they had maintained. How are they here already? Vareth Kren demanded. They pushed their ships beyond all safe limits, Relax reported. Some of their vessels have burned out engines. Yet they kept coming anyway. The realization finally struck Vareth Kren with the force of a physical blow. He had not been fighting farmers and a patrol ship. He had been fighting humans who were protecting their children, and now more humans were coming. Humans who had crossed the stars at impossible speed to defend their people for the first time in his illustrious military career. General Vareth Kren felt genuine fear in the mining tunnel. Amy Torres held a crying child and listened to the sounds of battle echoing from the entrance above. Help is coming, she whispered, though she did not know if it was true above her. The remaining defenders were being pushed back inch by inch. Lisa Grant took a wound to her shoulder but refused to leave her position. Kyle Porter was knocked down 3 times and got up 3 times. They were losing, but they were not giving up. And somewhere in the void of space, 40 human warships were screaming toward Vara 7 with vengeful fury. Admiral Megan Shaw's battle group dropped out of faster-than-light travel, like a storm descending upon the battlefield. 40 human warships emerged from the void at maximum combat speed. Their weapons already charging before they had fully returned to normal, Space Shaw stood on the bridge of her flagship, the USS Retribution, and surveyed the situation with cold fury in her eyes. Communications. Open a channel to the Drakari fleet, she commanded. Channel open? Admiral, Shaw spoke with a voice that carried the weight of righteous anger. Drakari forces. This is Admiral Megan Shaw of the United Earth Fleet, she announced. You have attacked our colony, you have threatened our people, and you have endangered our children, so surrender is no longer being offered to you. General Vareth Kren heard the transmission and felt his blood run cold. You dare provoke human defenders? He screamed at his bridge crew as if they were somehow responsible for his miscalculation. General, we must retreat. Relax urged. No. Vareth Kren refused. We still have 8 warships, and we will not run from these humans. But even as he spoke, the human fleet was already engaging. Admiral Shaw had studied the Drakari military for years, and she knew exactly where to strike. Target their engine sections first, she ordered her captains. They do not leave this system. The human fleet moved with devastating precision, coordinating their attacks like a pack of predators, bringing down larger prey within minutes. 2 Drakari ships were disabled and drifting. Vareth Kren watched his tactical display with growing panic as his fleet crumbled around him. Return fire, he ordered desperately. Concentrate all weapons on their flagship. The Drakari ships focused their attack on the Retribution. But Shaw's vessel was built for exactly this kind of battle, shields holding at 70%. Our tactical officer reported. Continue the attack, Shaw replied calmly on the ground. Lisa Grant heard a new sound cutting through the chaos of battle. Human fighters were screaming down through the atmosphere, strafing the Drakari positions with pinpoint accuracy. Reinforcements have arrived, she shouted to her exhausted defenders. The effect was immediate. The colonists who had been fighting for hours found new strength in their limbs. Kyle Porter let out a war cry and charged at a group of Drakari soldiers who were suddenly trying to retreat. You are not running away now, he roared. The Drakari ground forces broke without air support and with their fleet being destroyed above them. The alien soldiers began surrendering in droves. They had been told that humans were weak and peaceful, that this would be an easy conquest. They had been told lies. General Vareth Kren's flagship shook violently as another human volley struck his shields failing. An officer reported, General, we must surrender. Relax pleaded. There is no victory here. The Dominion does not surrender to lesser species. Vareth Kren shouted back, but his crew had seen enough. One by one, the other Drakari ships began broadcasting surrender signals as their captains realized that continued resistance meant certain death only. Vareth Kren's flagship continued fighting. Admiral Shaw shook her head at the general's stubbornness. Disable that ship, she ordered. I want their commander taken alive. Concentrated barrage from 6 human warships tore through the Drakari flagship's remaining shields and crippled its weapon systems. The great vessel drifted helplessly, smoke pouring from multiple breaches in its hull. Prepare a boarding party, Shaw commanded. I am going over there personally. 20 minutes later, Admiral Shaw walked onto the bridge of the Drakari flagship with a squad of armored marines. Behind her, General Vareth Kren stood in the center of his ruined command center, his scales pale with shock and his eyes hollow. Why? He asked as Shaw approached him. Why did your people fight so hard for one small colony? Shaw stopped directly in front of him and met his gaze without flinching. Because there were children there, she answered simply. But you lost hundreds of warriors defending them, Vareth Kren protested. Your patrol ship sacrificed itself for civilians. You still do not understand, Shaw said with something almost like pity in her voice. She stepped closer to the defeated general. Humans evolved on a dangerous world where survival required cooperation and sacrifice. She explained, "We protected our young from predators, from starvation, from every threat imaginable. And that instinct is woven into the very core of what we are." Varthkren shook his head in disbelief. "No species values others above themselves." He insisted. "We do," Shaw replied. "And that is why you lost today. Because you threatened the one thing that makes humans truly dangerous." She signaled her Marines to take the general into custody. "You threatened our children," Shaw concluded. "And now you will spend the rest of your life remembering what that cost you." On the surface of Var 7, Daniel Carter emerged from the underground shelter and looked up at a sky filled with human warships. Lisa Grant stood beside him, her arm in a makeshift sling, but her spirit unbroken. Kyle Porter was helping wounded defenders toward the medical station that Amy Torres was already preparing, and from the mining tunnels, the children of Vera 7 began to emerge into the sunlight. Families, reunited with tears and embraces, parents held their children and wept with relief. The colony had survived. 3 days later, a memorial service was held for Commander Nathan Cole and the crew of the USS Sentinel. Admiral Shaw read the names of each fallen crew member, while the entire colony stood in respectful silence. These brave men and women gave everything to protect strangers they had never met, Shaw said. They honored their oath to defend the innocent, and because of their sacrifice, 63 children are alive today. The names were carved into a monument at the center of the colony, a permanent reminder of what courage looked like. News of the Battle of Vareth 7 spread across the galaxy within weeks. The Galactic Council saw footage of humans fighting to the death for their colony, of a single ship charging into an entire fleet, of farmers standing against trained soldiers, other aggressive species, who had been considering expansion into human territory. Quietly changed their plans, and a new phrase entered the common vocabulary of 100 different worlds. Never. Provoke the human defenders. General Varthkren sat in his cell awaiting trial for war crimes, haunted by the memory of humans who refused to break. He had learned the truth that so many others would learn in the centuries to come. Humans were not the weak, peaceful species that they appeared to be. They were something far more dangerous. They were protectors, and anyone who threatened what they loved would face the full fury of their righteous wrath. The galaxy had received its warning. Some lessons only need to be taught once.